Are you a little overweight, maybe even a lot overweight, but you're still really physically fit and you can do really well in the fitness test in the Army? Well, there's a new policy, I guess an old policy that's been brought back for the new fitness test, but a policy that if you can score well enough on the fitness test, you could be exempt from the body fat standards in the Army. Let me explain how this might work. So this isn't really anything new because they kind of already had this, right? They had it with the ACFT, the Army Combat Fitness Test, where you could score a certain score, then you were exempt from the body fat percentage. So if you were overweight and it was because of fat, not because of muscle, didn't matter because you could score really high on the fitness test, so they would still kind of waive it. Now, for those of you that may not be familiar, well, there are certain standards, right? You have to pass the fitness test, and after you do the fitness test, you usually do height and weight. And based on your age, your gender, and your height, there's a certain amount of weight that you're kind of allocated. And if you go over that weight, then you have to move to another step to find out, are you overweight because you're just muscular, and muscle has a lot of mass to it, so it weighs quite a bit, right? And so you could be overweight just because you're muscular, but you could be overweight because of fat. So then they do what is called a tape test, where they take some different measurements to determine your body fat percentage. And if you're over the allocated body fat percentage, then you're considered overweight. But if you're not over the body fat percentage kind of thing, then it's just because you're really muscular and you're good to go. But if you are considered overweight because of body fat, then you have to go on some kind of remedial stuff where you have to do more fitness, you have to do some diet plans and all sorts of other things to try to lose that weight. Because if you don't, you're not going to be eligible for getting promoted. You can't re-enlist to stay in the Army longer. So it really affects, your ability to be able to progress throughout the Army if you're overweight because of too much body fat. And there might be some people that, they're just kind of big people, right? Maybe they do have some body fat to them, right? They're overweight, but they can still perform really well on the fitness test. And if you're in that situation, you can perform really well on the fitness test, even though if you got a little extra weight to you, right, that's not because of muscle, well, then they'll waive everything and you won't be barred from reenlistment. You won't be held back from promotions. You'll still be able to advance through your career and everything because of how well you're able to do on a fitness test. So how well do you have to do on that fitness test then? If you are not familiar, the current fitness test is the Army Fitness Test, or the AFT. That is the current, as of making this video, fitness test. It has replaced the ACFT. The ACFT, or the Army Combat Fitness Test, did have this same policy, just a different score, because now the AFT only has 5 events compared to the previous 6 events. So 5 events, max of 100 in every event, would give you a maximum score of 500. Now, I don't believe I've seen an extended scale for the AFT, because there was a point in time where, I think with APFT, I don't know if the ACFT had this or not, I don't remember, but if you did really well, you could potentially score higher than 100. And so then that can kind of fluctuate other things to where you could score a little bit lower, but still end up with a really high overall one because you did 110 in this event. And I don't think the AFT has that extended scale. I think it just caps out at 100. So there is actually a lot of combinations of possibilities of what could get you here. But the overall score you'd be looking to get is a 465, pretty close to the max. But if that happens to be a scenario that you're in where you're overweight because of body fat and not because of muscle, but you can still do really well in the fitness test, then you're good. They'll waive all the standards and everything else like that. But again, that's pretty close to getting 100 in every event. There are actually a lot of different possibilities of what scores you could get in every event to get that 465. There's some easy ones, like, for example, you could possibly get 100 in 4 events. That gives you 400. Now you just need 65 more points. And so one of those events, you just get 65, which is only a little bit over the passing kind of limit for that event, because every event needs at least 60 points in each event. So that'd be barely passing that event. Probably in that circumstance, if that was your situation, you can do amazing in all these events. But one of those events is probably a little bit of a struggle, probably the run, right? You're probably going to be in that situation where you can do amazing on all these other events, but then you get to the 2-mile run, you can barely pass the run, I guess, because you're exhausted from doing so well in the other ones, or maybe because you are carrying some extra body fat type of thing. Then sure, you would be able to still be exempt from that situation where it doesn't matter if you're, overweight because of body fat, you can do amazing on the fitness test, so you're good. If you're looking at the minimum, then that would be 93 points in every event. Because if you got 92 in all 5 events, it makes 465. So then you'd be good. You'd be able to pass that. But if you had a situation where you fell just a little under that 93 points in one of these events, then one of these other events, you're going to have to do better. You're going to have to do like, 95 or whatever points you have to make up based on how low of a score you got in that one event. And there's a ton of combinations and possibilities, but those are the main ones, right? 100 in 4 events and then barely passing, or maybe even doing pretty good in that 5th event and you just don't max, or maybe you do max all 5 events, get 500, but you're going to need at least, at a minimum, 93 points in all 5 events to get that 465. Now, what does that look like, right? How fast am I going to have to do my 2-mile run? How many push-ups do I have to do? How fast do I have to do that sprint and drag carry? All of that stuff, right? Still going to depend based on, your gender and your age and everything else like that. And when the Army fitness test came out, or the AFT came out, I did do a video on that. So if you want to check that out, I'll have that video available right here. So go check that video out right there. Also down in the description box down below, a link to my website where you can check out the scoring chart. Check that out. Thank you for watching. Make sure you're subscribed. I'm Christopher Chaos. I'll see you next time. See ya.